Campfire Classics is a classic literature podcast. However, your hosts will occasionally use not-so-classy language and immature humor to describe very mature situations. As such, listener discretion is advised. Hi, I'm Ken Sandberg.
And I'm Heather Michelle Lawler.
Welcome to Campfire Classics, where we try to read those books that look really good on your shelf.
I've got nothing. That's it.
I like it. That had strong... melodically, that was shockingly similar to Hot Pockets. I've got nothing.
Yeah, Stackhouse would be proud, but yeah, no, I was like, do I have anything clever or cute or anything? No, it's just been a busy morning, and I'm here to record the podcast now.
Whee! There's actually something kind of comforting about that. It means you're not having like super strong feelings about anything.
I mean, I have super strong feelings about a lot of things. I just haven't had time to feel any of them today because I've been too busy.
Okay. So you're not having super acute feelings about anything.
Yeah. I mean, we all know Heather has strong opinions about most things, but I have strong feelings about this second cup of coffee I'm enjoying right now, which is delicious.
Yes, let your soul shine.
Let your soul fucking shine through coffee.
Cool. Well, since there's apparently nothing to vent about today, I love that.
Well, I mean, if you want to vent.
That was not me. That was not me asking. That was simply me noting that usually if there is stuff to air, this is the part where it happens. And if there's nothing to air, then we can get to the part where we just do stupid shit.
I mean, I like that. Let's just do stupid shit today. I mean, it's, life is just as it is. I'm in rehearsals. You're in rehearsals. I'm going to be leaving in a few weeks for Edinburgh. You're going to be opening a show in a couple of weeks. The world's falling apart, but we're here to record a podcast. Let's do it.
Cool. Welcome to Stupid Shit, where we stupid shit.
Fucking France voted down fascism. That was cool as fuck this week. I don't know if anyone saw that, but they literally fucking said nope.
Which is great.
That was cool.
Right, and good for you, France, and not to downplay that at all, but it is a little upsetting that, fascism was on the ballot.
Well, it's on the ballot here, too, honey.
Oh, yeah, I know, which is also upsetting.
It was also on the ballot in England, and that got voted down, too. So, if three's a charm, we're ready. Let's do this.
Yeah, and we have historically not voted against fascism with disturbing regularity, so... Ooh.
Everyone register to vote, and just remember, fascism is bad. That's all.
We fought a whole war deciding that.
Yep. So let's just continue that lovely trend.
2 of them, actually.
Yeah. Well, a few more, actually, because technically...
Yeah, I suppose it depends on what you want to call, where you want to draw the line.
Yeah. So, anyway... Won't dive too deep into that, but there, that was some good news for the week. Yay, France.
Welcome to Campfire Classics, an anti-fascist propaganda podcast.
Damn right. If I'm going to be a propaganda for anything, it's anti-fascism. I'll tell you that right now.
I mean, we are literature and comedy, 2 things that I'm pretty sure fascists are opposed to.
Yeah, they don't like books. And they don't like opinions, so we will be the first to burn. So vote against those fuckers.
If you like this podcast, please oppose.
As I say at the Betsy Ross house when I do the fucking flag raising, I'm like, if anybody knew I was sewing this flag or that all of you support American independence, we'd all be punishable by death. But since we're all in this together, I'll continue. So if you like our podcast or you like having opinions and reading books, then vote for blue. Vote the blues.
I got the blues.
If you don't want the blues, you better vote for blue. Hey.
Yes. So welcome to Campfire Classics. Not explicitly a propaganda podcast. We just end up doing that accidentally sometimes. What we actually do is we cold read short stories that we've pulled out of the public domain. We read them for you sight unseen. Often that results in bad reading, which often results in hilarity. Sometimes it results in good reading, which also results in hilarity when we make fun of things that are now penis jokes that probably weren't when the stories were written.
If you like penis jokes, vote blue. I don't know why the Democratic campaign doesn't hire me. I'm ready. Let's go.
Like dick jokes? Vote Biden.
Vote Biden. So today I was in charge of all of the things, and all of the things is not only just the story and the fun facts of the author, but we have now added Creep Corner. So this actually kind of maybe ties into the story. I'm not sure. I kind of want to do things a little out of order today because I think it will help the setup. So our author today, as far as I can tell, is a new author who lived a very uneventful life. So there's not a lot of fun facts about the author.
Great.
But the story I've picked from the author has informed the Creep Corner.
Okay.
So I'm going to go a little out of order. So,
Great.
Ha ha ha, fuckers. If you like to do your own thing, vote blue.
If sometimes life feels out of order,
Vote blue.
vote blue.
I don't know when this turned into like a fucking politics, like political ad, but it is.
It's propaganda. This week's episode brought to you by the letter P for propaganda.
All right, so I'm going to actually dive right into the author, and then I'm going to tell you the title of the story, and then I'm going to do Creep Corner. So our author today is named Richard Connell.
Okay.
Or I guess Dick Connell, if you want to go that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we can go that route. The thing, so like, I prefer the sound of Richard Connell.
Yeah.
I like
I'm
that
sure
better.
he does too.
It sounds like less of a politician's name. But Dick Connell is a penis joke, so we can go that route.
Exactly. So, all right. So he just plays right into the entire event. So Richard Edward Connell Jr. So there is a Dick Connell Sr. too.
All right.
Was born on October 17th, 1893. And he was an American author and journalist. Now, he was very popular during his time for short story writing. His stories were published in the Saturday Evening Post, Collier's, like all the best magazines at the time. And his most famous short story was called The Most Dangerous Game.
Yes. Okay, that's why his name sounds familiar.
Which is the most anthologized and like redone short story of all time.
Yeah, of course.
Which is wild because, like, we've been reading, Poe and Christie and all those things, but this story has been, like, adapted more than, like, any other short story known to us here in
Yeah, I'm pretty sure The Simpsons has done, like, 6 episodes that are adaptations of that story.
Yeah, and I guess it is in public domain. I will have to look up how long it is because you're not reading that one today. So that has been anthologized a lot, but he also was a screenwriter and adapted some of his other stories directly for the screen. One of those being his 1922 short story, A Reputation, that was turned into a film, and he, Mr. Dick Connell, was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Story, and that movie was called Meet John Doe.
Huh.
And that was directed by Frank Capra, who was like a big deal. So he had a very successful life. He was born in Poughkeepsie, New York. He was the son of Dick E. Connell and Mary Miller Connell.
It's a world of dicks.
Dick Connell Sr. He started writing for the Poughkeepsie Journal when he was young. He went to Georgetown. He went to Harvard. He wrote at Harvard for The Lampoon and the Crimson, which are very famous literary magazines. And he served in France. France, yay, is anti-fascism during World War I.
Great.
In the Army. And while he was in the Army, he was the editor of the camp's newspaper. After the war, he continued writing, and he wrote over 300 stories. That is literally his bio.
Huh. All right. Cool.
Like, so he wrote so much, but he was very not, like, unproblematic, clearly, and, like, he was a very private person. So
yeah, he just sort of stayed home, kept his nose down, did his thing.
Yeah. So like I looked on like 4 different websites, and that was the amount of information I could get. So I guess if you have any literary people out there looking to do like a deep dive thesis on someone, maybe this is the person that needs some exploration, so we know a little bit more about him because he sounds awesome. Or maybe he just wanted to live through his works, and that's why we're going to read one today. Or maybe he was
secretly a psychopath and he spent a lot of time expunging himself from all records.
Oh, or maybe he was like a spy.
Or like, a vampire.
Or a vampire. That's it. He was definitely a vampire. I mean, he died at age 56, so that would be a very young vampire. Or maybe he didn't die.
Or did he?
Or did he? So that is Dick Connell, and today you're going to be reading a story that, honestly, I was like, I just want this to be read because I like the title. The Man Who Could Imitate a Bee.
All right.
That is the story's title by Dick Connell.
That. Come with me around the bend to a place we can't pretend is anything less than filled with horror. Welcome, friends, to Creep Corner.
Good. I'm glad that happened, or we would not be able to go on. I love it. All right. So today we are going to be learning some horrifying aspects of the queen bee's life.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
And it's fucked up, man. Like, I like typed in, Google. I was like, creepy facts about bees once I saw the title. And saw how short his bio was. And I went, oh my God. Okay, so here we go. So the life cycle of a queen bee is not so glamorous as you would think. In fact, it's very brutal. So nature does not actually nurture this insect. Instead, the queen undergoes a serious amount of trauma throughout her 1 to 5 year lifespan.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is it's not so good to be queen.
It ain't so good to be queen. Yeah, it's like, this is like what Game of Thrones was based on, because it's just fucked up. So many people believe that the queen bee does not sting, or if they do sting, it's like if a lot with normal bees, if they sting you, they usually die. But right. With the queen can sting you as much as she fucking wants. But she also gets stung repeatedly throughout her life by her own tribe, which kind of sucks.
Oops.
Oopsie. So, the queen bee is elected for life, and it is a life of torture by her own family. So
wait, they're elected?
Yeah.
I didn't know bees held elections.
Oh, here we go. Yes, bees are quite democratic. So there are a few ways that a queen bee is introduced to the hive. Now, it's not technically an election, but it is kind of a fight to the death, literally. So in some instances, an aging queen will leave the hive, and then several of her daughters. So if the queen's just like, I'm gonna die, bye, and she leaves, then any of her daughters will be selected pre-birth as potential candidates for the next generation of queen. So they are still in their eggs.
Okay.
So in some other cases, potential queens are chosen by a beekeeper, which is fucked up.
Sure.
Because there's a whole sect of this that was all like beekeeper shit, and how like human interaction is actually like, as much as beekeeping is great, if you interact too much with the hive, it like fucks it up.
Well, so it sounds like what we have is if they are selected before birth through the natural process, we've got the regular system of a monarchy, or we've got essentially colonialism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you've got the beekeeper is the colonial government that is like, no, y'all are totally ruling yourselves so long as you follow this one that I selected.
Yeah, exactly. So once one of the bees is like selected, she is prematurely ripped from her womb cell That's some fucking Macbeth shit right there.
Right.
Like literally, I was like, whoa, okay. So since several virgin candidates is what they're called, are pre-selected for this life of the queen, the competition for survival starts very young. And by young, I mean pre-birth. So they lay these virgin queens in queen cups, which are larger versions of the cells and regular eggs are laid. And if the cell has entered through the side, it's safe to assume that one of those, because of the size, is a queen bee elect.
Okay.
Now, then they are ripped from the fucking like shell of their thingy of their egg, and then the virgin queen bees are forced to fight each other to the death. So these baby fucking bees are ripped out of their larva, like before they're actually supposed to hatch. And so they have to survive that, which not all of them do. And then once you've been picked, the virgin bees are equipped with unstoppable stingers that are not barbed like the worker bees, so they can sting on one another repeatedly. And in order to live, the virgin bees must travel around the hive, calling each other out and fighting to the death. So
holy shit.
They literally have to go fucking like full like Colosseum, like fight to the death. And the one that remains is the new queen. Yay! Except then she is force-fed into obesity. So she wins. And then the queen bee is, if you know anything about bees, is the largest bee, usually. And that's because they literally shove food down her throat to make her big.
This is
like fucking terrifying.
So it's sounding like it's much better to be one of the peasants in this world.
I mean, I guess, yeah. It's just kind of creepy. So they like literally, once she's selected, they just start feeding her. She starts eating, and then she is not technically born genetically different than her peers. It's just where she was laid by the previous queen that kind of put her up as a virgin queen.
Right.
And then she is force-fed a concoction known as royal jelly. That the bees make, and she gives her like, makes her big. They like force feed it to her. It causes her to become large and sluggish when compared to the other bees around her, and it gives her that queen bee look.
Come here and eat my royal jelly.
Yeah, come here, eat royal jelly. So after she's become her plump, beautiful self, she then gets to mate, but only mates once in her life by ripping her partner's abdomens off. So, by the time the queen bee is about a week or so in age, so they've plumped her up, and now she's plumpy, and she's ready to mate.
Yeah, sure. A mature, chubby 1 week old.
Yeah, I love it. She's already ready. She's already had to murder many of her fellow bees in order to survive, including all the other,
like you do.
And now she has to kill her lovers. So the mating ritual happens suddenly, right after the fights to the death have ceased against the other bees. It is a practice referred to as swarming. Now, several male bees mate with the queen while she's flying through the air. So it's basically like a aerial gangbang here. You'll never look at bees the same, I feel, after this. After the two finish their close encounter, the male bee must depart and leave his abdomen behind. Worse, the abdomen remains connected to the bee. So by the time one of her mating flight is complete, she will have up to 100 million sperm cells stored in her body that she will use throughout the rest of her life. So she has sex with like thousands of bees once. And then she stores that sperm, and that's what she uses to give birth to up to 1,500 babies every day for the rest of her life.
Good Lord.
Yes.
Well, So this is basically, I mean, up until that point, this is basically just sounding like the Roman Empire, right? It's your life starts in the gladiator ring where there's only one left standing, and then it's just a giant orgy.
Yeah. Yeah. So that happens, and then, you know, for the rest of her life, her job is to lay these like up to 1,500 a day. And then when she's no longer welcome in that 1 to usually 5 years times period, you know, as long, I guess, however long as she's eating her royal jelly and laying her eggs. But once she is no longer welcome, her hive will sentence her to, quote, death by bawling. Which is just the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Okay.
I'm like, wait, they just slapped their balls on her to death?
If the gangbang didn't get her.
I'm like, damn, that's rough, man. Like, can I just get some regular death by stoning over here? I don't need the balls in my face. Like, that's a scary way to go, man. So, if she is no longer welcome, then it's thousands of bees will create a death by bawling. All the bees in the hive will gang up on the queen. The close-knit cluster will form around her and raise her body temperature to the point where she overheats and dies. So they form such a close-knit ball around her that they basically explode her because she gets too hot.
So, to recap, gladiator ring, orgy, a lifetime of pregnancy, and then burning at the stake.
Yep. Ain't nature fun, y'all? And so then they die, and honestly, they are just there's no royal burial or royal procession. They're moving on to the next, start ripping out the next virgin queens to fight. And the queen that has died, and because she has been bawled to death, is reduced to ant food. It's the circle of life. Creep corner.
I sort of get why you said something early on where in that harrowing tale about if a queen decides to leave, if she basically retires, well, fucking yeah, I'm going to be abdicating my throne 2 years in.
Oh, fuck
the average reign is 3 to 5 years. I'm 2 years in, I'm out. I'm going to go it alone. I think I stand a better chance.
Yeah, I'm just going to go live in this flower over here and, suck up as much life as I can. I would rather not get bawled to death. I'm going to go sting a bunch of motherfuckers, and then I'm going to, hang out in the forest. So that, my friends, is the story of the queen bee's life cycle.
Jesus H. That was horrifying.
If you think Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon or Lord of the Rings or whatever, these epic tales are a lot, I want to see someone do a...
fuck Cats the musical. I want Bees the musical.
Damn right. Fuck the Jellicle Ball. We're gonna have a aerial orgy.
It's not the Jellicle Ball. It's the Royal Gel Ball.
The Royal Jelly Ball, and it's just the feast of shoving food down her mouth. So that was Creep Corner, and as I said, today you are going to be reading the story called The Man Who Could Imitate a Bee. So luckily he's not the queen, so we should avoid all
Hopefully.
that. It was first published in 1923 in Harper's Bazaar, and it's by our dear friend Dick Connell, or Richard Connell. So let's do this.
Let's start this fire. The Man Who Could Imitate a Bee by Richard Dick Connell Jr. It was not until his 22nd year that Hervé Deo?
I want that to be Harvey, but it is not.
But it's not. Oh, it's Hervey.
It's Hervey.
Hey there, I'm Hervey.
I am
All right.
Herbie.
I'm going to go with Hervey Deo.
Oh, I'm just looking down. There's some weird names. Get ready. All right.
It was not until his 22nd year that Hervey Deo realized that he was taking life too seriously. Then, the realization struck him sharply.
Damn right, brah. Life's too short. It's fucking
Yeah,
live your life.
oh yeah, no, fair enough. Taking life too seriously. Yeah, your 20s is when you want to stop taking it seriously.
Yeah, that's when you start giving less fucks. Every year you
Yep.
get less fucks. Yep.
He had been a serious infant and had nursed more from a sense of duty than pleasure. His juvenile marble and hoop games had been grave affairs conducted with nicety and decorum. He learned to read shortly after he was breeched, and at 7 presented a slip at the public library for the encyclopedia from A to Z.
Aw, he's a little nerd. He likes the rules, and he just wants
yeah.
to be a good little boy.
Oh dear, I relate to this child far too much
I was
already.
gonna say, I was like, I see you in this.
Yeah. The librarian demurred, but he gently insisted. He was permitted to carry it home, volume by volume. At 12, he had resolved to be a scientist, and furthermore, a great scientist. He determined to pursue the career of ornithologist.
Yay! That's something I thought about being.
You wanted to be an ornithologist? You wanted to study birds and shit?
Birds, or what's the other? The insects.
Entomologist.
Entomologist.
Yes.
A lot of people still to this day say I missed one of my callings because I like bugs.
Good with bugs.
And I like animal. I just like creatures. I like things that are not people.
Things are better than people.
Things are better than people, except for bees, apparently.
Most of the nouns are preferable to people.
Yes.
Places, things,
Yeah. But not bees.
but not bees.
Holy fuck.
They're fucked up.
But save the bees because they're saving our planet. Anyway, moving on. All right, he wants to be an ornithologist.
There was something so dignified and withal scientific about a science that called the sparrow Passae domesticus and the robin Erythicus rubicula. He made rapid progress. Holy shit, I can't believe I got through 2 Latin phrases.
I'm very
that
proud of
unscathed.
you. I'm very proud of you.
Oof. I may have pronounced them wrong,
But you committed and you gave less fucks. You didn't take life too seriously.
yeah. It might be Passer domesticus. I went French, passe.
Yeah.
And it might be Erythicus rubicula.
Latin
Instead of
speakers,
rubicula?
chime in and let us know how good our Latin
Rubicula?
is.
I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, fancy Latin names.
Yeah.
For Sparrow and Robin. He made rapid progress. On his 13th birthday, he took a bird walk at dawn and was able to record in his notebook the scientific name of 49 birds, including the ruby and topaz hummingbird, Chrysolampis mosquitus, which is rare around Boston.
Oh, so we know we're in Boston. We have a bird lover and a nerd. I love it.
And apparently the hummingbird is named for the same Latin root as the mosquito?
I'm guessing that comes from because of the sound they make.
The buzzing sound, or possibly the needle nose?
The needle nose. I wonder if ancient people that were naming things thought a hummingbird was just a giant fucking mosquito.
That's terrifying.
That is terrifying.
Or just thought mosquitoes were tiny little hummingbirds.
Maybe, until they
That
all started
confused
dying.
people for flowers.
Yes. They're just really stupid hummingbirds.
Get off me!
Oh my gosh.
At 15, he wrote a daring monograph which proved beyond cavil that it would be possible to revivify the extinct great auk, Plautus impennis. I should have gone with my instinct
Impinus.
and gone with Plautus impinus.
Plautus impinus.
But there are two N's.
There's two N's, so it's penis.
Plautus impenis, by a judicious and protracted series of matings between the penguin, Sphenisciformis, and the ostrich, Struthio camelus.
Wait, is he suggesting that this bird can be revived if a penguin and an ostrich have sex?
Yes. That is what...
That is some weird-ass National Geographic right there.
And in fairness, looking at pictures of the great auk...
The great auk? Okay, now I gotta look it up, yeah. Oh my gosh! Yeah! I love it.
Yeah. This theory was hotly challenged by a German savant in a 70,000-word exegesis, critical explanation or interpretation of a text, especially of scripture.
Oh.
So usually exegesis is a term reserved for critical examination of the Bible, but technically it is a critical examination of any text.
Okay.
This theory was hotly challenged by a German savant in a 70,000-word exegesis. Hervey Deo crushed him under a 100,000-word rejoinder, and thus at a tender age came to enjoy a certain decent celebrity in the world of ornithology. At 17, still in the university, he was becoming known as a first-rate, all-round bird man.
I'm the bird man.
He rather looked down on old Fod at the Natural History Museum, who was a beetle man, and particularly on Armbuster, who was a mere bee man. Yes, Armbuster and his bees decidedly wearied Hervey Deo. As if bees counted.
Clearly, he knows nothing about bees, because bees be fucked up.
Something revolutionary happened to him in the spring of his 22nd year. The mild spring evenings, biology, inexorable nature conspired against him. His mind began to reach out for contacts with new things outside the world of birds. He made the disturbing discovery that he could be interested in things unfeathered. Girls, for example.
Oh, good. He definitely has branched out. He has discovered the species of his own. That's good.
Yes. So this is starting to sound very birds and bees. He made this discovery at a tea to which he had gone, most reluctantly, with his mother, who was intensely serious about her social duties. He found himself sitting on a divan beside a girl. Her hair was blonde and bobbed, and she had an attentive little smile. To be polite, he explained to her the essential difference between the European redstart, Phoenicerus phoenicerus, and its cousin, the American fly-catching warbler, Setiphaga reticula. As he talked, the notion grew on him that teas were not the bore he had thought them. It disconcerted him when the girl rather abruptly left him to join a fattish young man who had just entered.
Uh-oh, that fattish young man been eating some royal jelly or something.
Yeah, man, you gotta plump up.
Yeah.
That's what I learned from bees. Hervey Deo could tell at a glance that the newcomer had not the intellect to so much as stuff a lark. His alert mother spied his lonely state and steered him to another corner and another girl. I'm sorry, Hervey. Is your mother your wingman?
Wingman, because he likes birds, but also, yeah, I bet his mother is his wingman. Well, I mean, it was a different time. It was like, especially if you were of a class of like being, if you were going to college and stuff, then you, a lot of times your parents would set you up, which is creepy.
He sought to fascinate her with an account. This is the new girl, not his mother.
Yes.
He sought to fascinate her with an account of the curious circumstance that the male loon, Gavia Emer, has 3 more bones in his ankle than the female of that species.
Yeah, that's some good breaking the ice material there, sir.
He told her this in strictest confidence, for it was the very latest gossip in the world of ornithology.
Oh.
He could not but note that after 15 minutes her attention seemed to wander. Presently, she murmured some vague excuse and slipped away to join a laughing group in another part of the room. He followed her flight with a glum eye.
Aw, strike out.
That's strike 2.
Strike out. Yep, strike 2.
The group appeared to have as its center the fattish young man, and it was growing distinctly hilarious. Hervey Deo had a pressing, but he told himself wholly scientific interest in learning what conversational charm or topic made the fattish young man so much more interesting than himself. He edged his chair within earshot. The fattish young man was not talking. He appeared to be making a series of odd noises through his nose, varied now and then by throaty bellows. Nyark, nyark,
That's a weird pull, dude.
To clarify, that sentence was spelled Norrrrrrrrrrrrrrrk.
Yep.
Period. Norrrrrrrk. Period.
Yep.
WURRRRR. Period. WURRRRR.
Yep.
Anyway. The trained ear of Hervey Deo was puzzled. Clearly, they were not bird noises. Yet they had a scientific sound. Perhaps the fattish young man was a scientist after all. A mammal man. Nork, nork, wah, wah. The girl with the attentive smile solved the mystery. She called across the room. "Oh, Bernice, do come over here. You simply must hear Mr. Mullet imitate a trained seal."
First of all, his name is Mr. Mullet. Also,
Whoops.
That's a seal? That's amazing.
I didn't know what we were going for. I might have tried something different if I'd known we were aiming for seal, but that's okay.
It looks like you get to do it a few more times as I glance down the page.
Yep. Hervey Deo felt actually ill. So that was the secret of Mr. Mullet's powers. That was the magnet. Hervey Deo couldn't stand it. Stiffly, He went out, and as he took his hat and stick, he could still hear the laughter and the fainter In a fury of disgust, he went to his laboratory and so violently stuffed a grackle, Euphagus ferruginous, that it burst.
What the fuck's a grackle, and why did he stuff it so it burst? That sounds like force feeding the queen bee there.
Might be force feeding the queen bee, or maybe the grackle's just really sexy.
Oh, that could be. He stuffed his grackle. Is that a euphemism for his ween?
Yeah, or he stuffed her grackle.
Oh. He killed a bird?
Well, I'm guessing it was already dead, and he was
taxidermying it. Yes.
Yeah, taxidermying it.
Because he works for the Natural History Museum. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a grackle.
Okay.
It's kind of pretty.
It's pretty, very pretty. I like him a lot.
Next day, he realized that something annoying was happening to him. He could not keep his mind on his work. It kept straying, despite him, to the little girl with the attentive smile. She had been interested in his talk of birds until the accomplished Mr. Mullet, imitator of trained seals, had made his untimely appearance. His teeth gritted together at the thought. That afternoon, he surprised his mother by suggesting he accompany her to a tea. She was glad his social consciousness seemed to be aroused at last.
She's like, oh, good. He's going to leave the lab. Yay!
Finally, he's making friends.
Kind of.
Who is Mr. Mullet? He asked her as they rode T-ward in her motor car, a product of the seriousness applied by Mr. Deo Sr. to his brick business. Mr. Mullet? Why, he's one of the Brookline Mullets, his mother said. Why? Is he an animal man? No, he sells insurance. He seems popular. Oh, he has some parlor tricks. I beg pardon, Mother. The allusion escapes me. Parlor tricks, repeated his mother. He imitates a trained seal. It appears to strike the younger people as excessively comical. I believe he can also swallow a lighted cigarette.
I bet that's not all he can swallow if he's so popular.
Yo, he's not just popular with the ladies.
Nope, he's just popular all over the place.
He frequents very particular bars in the evening.
Yes, he does, Mr. Mullet.
Hervey emitted a polite moan. Must one do parlor tricks? They have their uses, said his mother.
It's like, can't I just be myself? And the answer is
no,
yes.
Yourself is never good enough.
Mr. Mullet is now in my brain Barney Stinson. He's like, let me show you this thing. Whack, whack. Like, it's like, watch me seduce this.
Do you like magic?
Yeah, watch me seduce this table acting like a trained seal. Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted.
Exactly.
The girl with the attentive smile was at the tea, and Hervey Deo captured her. Dude, that's a crime.
Yeah, don't do that. I know you're jealous of this guy, but, consent, please.
Her name was Mina Lowe. He was congratulating himself on having interested her in his new monograph on parakeet bills when she sprang up with a little cry of pleasure. Oh, Mr. Deo, there's Ned Mullet. Let's get him to imitate a trained seal. He's perfectly killing. I do not know seals, said Hervey Deo severely. They fail to attract me. I am a bird man. He left the tea with a heavy heart while the talented Mullet was bellowing. Lying in his bed that...
It's just good. This is the joy of picking a story sight unseen and not knowing that that's going to be in it.
I saw a meme recently that was talking about the important difference between between the words man and guy. Mm-hmm. Because if you say someone is a tree guy, then it's like, oh yeah, he's a guy who likes trees. And if you say someone is a tree man, then you're picturing Treebeard from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So every time he says, I'm a bird man, I'm thinking...
Whereas I go to the movie with Michael Keaton, even though I never saw it, but yeah. But I immediately am like, Michael Keaton.
That's right. You haven't seen that yet.
I know.
We need to sit down and watch that. It's
weird.
Actually really good.
Yeah, I've heard. It's
I liked
very
it.
good. It's just like one of those movies that has passed me by somehow, yes.
Yeah. Lying in his bed that night, the brain of Hervey Deo entertained two thoughts. One was that Miss Lowe was a singularly charming girl. The other was he could not interest her by birds alone. How then? He analyzed the situation with the same care and logic that he applied to the dissection of a hummingbird. His conclusion was revolting, but inescapable. He must master a parlor trick. He shuddered at the notion, but he was resolved. The ends justify the means, he muttered. He rose early and attacked the problem with the weapons of science. In his notebook, he carefully wrote down all the animals and the sounds they made, with comments and remarks on their value as entertainment. Anteater. Wee, woo, wee. Difficult. Buffalo. Uncouth. Bull. Too like buffalo. Beagle. Yerp, yerp, yerp. Lacks dignity. Elephant. Hard on one's throat. He went through the list of the mammals. So is swallowing a lit cigarette.
Yeah,
for what it's worth.
I would guess swallowing a lit cigarette is also quite painful, but I mean, I guess he needs to get some vocal work so he can make that noise healthily. Yeah.
He went through the list of mammals, and the result was disappointing. None of them seemed so interesting as a seal, and besides, he did not wish to lay himself open to the charge of plagiarism. He could not, of course, employ the calls of birds, although he was rather good at that. It seemed sacrilegious to employ ornithology as a parlor trick. He turned his attention to the noises made by inanimate things. He jotted down in his book foghorn, buzzsaw, locomotive, saxophone. He was considering them with furrowed brow when Armbuster agitatedly burst in. He disliked Armbuster. He gave himself too many airs for a mere bee man. Hervey considered it rather an imposition when Armbuster was given an adjoining laboratory at the museum.
Uh-oh.
Have you seen her, Deo? Cried Armbuster. Her who? My queen. She escaped.
Oh no! His queen bee?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, unless he's referring to his wife as his queen, which is
she's
cute.
Running away from getting bald.
Which is cute unless you're keeping her prisoner and that's why she escaped.
Yeah, and if you're treating your wife anything like the bees treat the queen in the hive, we don't like that either.
Don't bawl your wife to death.
Yeah, unless she really wants it, but not to death. No, don't bawl your wife to death. That's good, solid advice.
No, said Hervey Deo coldly. It was annoying to have one's thoughts broken in upon to be asked about a wretched bee. "If you do see her, be sure to tell me," said Armbuster. "Certainly." The bee-man vanished. Hervey Deo again bent over his notebook. He added the words, "Dentist's electric drill," and was considering whether Miss Lowe would regard an imitation of it as unpleasant when a faint sound caused him to turn his head. A large bumblebee was crawling up the window pane, grumbling to herself.
Yeah, because she's like, fuck, get me out of here, get me out of here.
"I can make it, I can escape. This is it, this is my retirement."
Away!
Hervey Deo watched, listened. His first thought was to capture her and return her to Armbuster, and he reached out his hand toward her. She bumbled noisily and eluded him. It came to him as a flash of inspiration that his problem was solved. He'd imitate a bee.
Of course.
Naturally.
I mean, women do like things that buzz. Buzz, 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 buzz. I'm just saying. There is method to his madness.
Something about buzzing and bawling.
Yeah, something buzzing and bawling, baby.
He knew it was not honorable to keep her, but he did. He spent the afternoon chasing her up and down the pane with a gloved hand. She muttered and grumbled and buzzed. Bzz, bzz,
I feel like we're playing that game in grad school where you had to swallow the bee and like put it in a like fucking body part, and fucking theater school's weird, y'all.
Yeah, to be clear, that game is exactly what it sounds like. We sat in a classroom and had to swallow a live bee. Grad school is fucked up.
And put it in a part of your body and make it move around in there. Yes.
He smiled a smile of grim triumph. What was a trained seal's raucous bellow to this? Softly he imitated the sounds she made. Patiently he practiced. Before dusk came, he was satisfied with the perfection of his imitation, and yet not entirely satisfied. The thing lacked a dramatic quality. It came to no climax.
Aww.
Yes, a lack of climax is often unsatisfying.
That's why you need to buzz.
He could buzz loudly and softly, angrily or soothingly.
It's good to use different tempos and volumes, yeah.
But there was no grand finale. My understanding is that persistence, once you have found the right buzzing, is the key to grand finale. He felt that one was needed, yes. Mr. Mullet ended his seal imitation with a crescendo roar. A thought, murderous and ruthless, shot into one of Hervey Deo's brain cells. Normally, he was neither murderous nor ruthless, quite gentle indeed, but love brings out the primal man. For the sake of Mina Lowe, he would, for a second, be atavistic. He chased the protesting bee across the pane, got her into a corner. His gloved hand closed on her. She buzzed frantically. He closed his thumb and forefinger smartly together. He cut her off in full buzz with a sharp, incisive sound like a torch plunged into a pond. The perfect climax. I mean, they do call it the Little Death, but that's kind of fucked up.
That's back to the French, yes.
Yeah. Hurriedly, furtively, he fed her corpse to a live flamingo in a cage in the corner. On his way home, he passed Armbuster in the hall. Armbuster was distractedly searching for his queen. He was peering under a rug. Hervey Deo did not meet the man's eyes. Dude, that's fucked up. He He just killed this poor queen, and now he's not even telling Armbuster that, like, oh, no, she's gone. In his room that night, he practiced assiduously his new accomplishment. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. He attained perfection in that final shrill staccato bzzz. His mother, hearing the sounds, came to the door and asked if he was ill. He called her in. Listen, he said.
Hey, Mom, your adult son wants to do this bee impression for you.
Mom, look at me. Mom, look, I can be a bee.
Look
Mom. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. Oh, dear, she cried. A bee? Where is he? Hervey bowed. I am here, he said. He amazed his mother still more next day by asking her to give a tea for him at the earliest opportunity.
Oh, no.
He mentioned matter-of-factly that he wouldn't mind having her ask Miss Mina Lowe. He planned the seating scientifically. He saw to it that he and Miss Lowe were seated together in a quiet corner near a window. When she had finished her first cup of tea, he turned to her suddenly, his eyes excited. I say, Miss Lowe, look. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. He pretended to pursue an imaginary bee up the window pane and to catch him at last. Oh, it's a bee, she cried. Where? He asked with a smile. Oh, it's not really one. It was you. Oh, do it again.
He's successful.
He did it again. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. She clapped her hands in ecstasy. Oh, good. He got her to ecstasy. That was some good buzzing.
I mean, this is it's a good round one here, buddy.
Oh, Mr. Deo, how perfectly wonderful. I didn't think you... What? Oh, do let me call the others. If you wish, said Harvey Deo.
I wonder what she was going to say. I didn't think you had it in you, or I didn't think you liked to have fun, or...
I didn't think you were interesting.
Yeah, we thought you were gay. I don't know, like, what...
Because only straight men and good lovers can make bee sounds.
I mean, if they're using them to seduce women, I guess, yeah.
If you wish, said Hervey Deo. They gathered about him. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. They were enchanted. Oh, do it again, they begged. He did. With a gracious smile, Hervey Deo acceded to their request. He glowed. He was tasting the heady draft of sudden popularity. Late arrivals at the tea were told of his accomplishment. They insisted on hearing it. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. Quite casual acquaintances came up to invite him to their homes, to teas, to dinner parties. He smiled and promised to come.
Well, that's nice. I mean, he seems to be making them very happy, and you're allowed to let yourself be happy, too.
From the corner of his eye, he could see that Miss Lowe was regarding him with something very like interest. He went to a dinner party at the home of Professor and Mrs. Murgatroyd. Holy shit, that is a person whose name is Murgatroyd.
Is a name. Mrs. Murgatroyd. I guess the meeting is on their spaceship? That's where their home is?
I hope so.
Yeah.
This is a space dinner party.
Yeah, Mrs. and Professor Murgatroyd.
Professor Murgatroyd.
I like to think he teaches, like, algebra. It's, like, the most boring thing ever.
This sounds like freaking a character from Futurama or something.
Yeah, it does.
I'm Professor Murgatroyd.
Murgatroyd, and today we shall study the history of comets.
He went to a dinner party at the home of Professor and Mrs. Murgatroyd. He had been stuffing an emu, Dromius irroratus, and it had so absorbed him that he was late. He entered with the fish course, and the guests beamed expectantly. "Oh, here is Mr. Deo," cried the hostess. "We were so afraid you'd disappoint us. I've been telling everyone about your perfectly delicious imitation of a bee." He obliged them. Bzz, bzz, bzz. They encored him. One of the guests was the fattish young man, Mr. Mullet, but the spotlight had shifted from him, and he sat eating morosely and regarding Hervey Deo with bilious, jealous eye.
This is the weirdest supper club ever.
It's a competition of animal sounds.
It's very strange. Only at the Natural History Museum are the men trying to compete for the ladies with making animal sounds.
Where'd I go? Oh, there we go. During the dessert, Mr. Mullet essayed to bark like a seal, but Mrs. Murgatroyd looked at him disapprovingly, and he never reached the roared climax.
Uh-oh.
He buried his chagrin in the peach melba. Hervey Deo, observing, smiled quietly to himself. After dinner, he had a tete-a-tete with Mina Lowe.
And by tete-a-tete, it means...
We'll see if there was a climax.
Yes. She seemed pretty excited about it.
She's certainly revving up.
Yeah.
For her own special and private diversion, he twice repeated his imitation. On the second occasion, he ventured to take her hand, and she pretended to be so absorbed in the imitation that she did not notice. Mm-hmm. 3 nights later, he called on her at her home. It was with difficulty that her younger brothers were finally dragged off to bed. The imitation fascinated them, and Hervey Deo was forced to do it no less than 7 times. He was getting to be a virtuoso. He could keep it up for 5 minutes at a time, now pretending that the bee was on the lampshade, now under a glass, now behind the piano, and even up the pant leg of the youngest Low boy.
He really is just doing the fucking thing we did in grad school.
Yes. When he and Mina were at last alone together, he pretended that the bee was buzzing very near her blonde, bobbed hair. In capturing it, he kissed her. Their engagement was announced the following Friday. Wow. That moved quick.
Well, again, it was a very different time. It was like, you meet them at the tea, you make them laugh, and then they have you over to their house, you make their siblings laugh, and then you're engaged.
Yeah.
That's
I guess
all
buzzing correctly really is super important, huh?
Yep.
The notice in the local newspaper pleased and yet vaguely disturbed Hervey Deo. It described him thus: Mr. Hervey Deo is well known in local society. He is a gifted scientist and has gained a reputation for his ability to imitate a bee. As he reread this, he could not but feel that some reference should have been made to the fact that he was the author of an authoritative work on the cuckoo, Cuculus canoris, that he was a doctor of philosophy, and that in the fall he was to become the chief curator of birds in the museum. Still, he reflected newspapers haven't room to print everything. They strive to print what to them are the salient facts. He and his fiancée went about a great deal, and the party at which Hervey Deo did not give his imitation of a bee was adjudged a sterile affair. Frequently, he congratulated himself in those days that it took a man of science to know when to be serious and when not to be. They were married in August, and no less than 17 friends sent the happy pair various representations of bees as wedding gifts. They received bronze bees, porcelain bees, silver bees, gold bees, and a pewter bee. His colleagues at the museum gave him a handsome bronze inkstand made to resemble a beehive. On his return from his honeymoon, Hervey Deo threw himself into his bird labors at the museum with energy. He was a birdman, even a first-class birdman, and so far his ambition was gratified. But it still burned with a hot, unappeased flame. He wanted to be the biggest birdman in the world. However, after his marriage, he permitted himself certain digressions from the relentless pursuit of this aim. There was a constant demand for him socially, and as Mina was fond of teas and parties and bridge and balls, he found...
Balls.
As Mina was fond of tea and parties and bridge and balls, he found himself giving rather less time to his birds than formerly.
I mean, when your girl's into balls,
it's tough to focus on much else.
It's tough to focus on the birds. Yep.
He was by no means averse to a measure of social life. A great scientist can afford to have his human side, he assured himself. Wherever he went with Mina, be it tea, party, bridge, or ball, he was invariably pressed to give his imitation of a bee. He would bow. He would let them insist a bit. Invariably, he gave it. No stranger ever came to the city who did not, sooner or later, hear that screamingly funny fellow Deo and his perfectly killing imitation of a bee. His fame spread. He had been married a number of years and had a child or two when he came home one evening visibly excited. "My dear," he called his wife, his voice full of excitement tinged with awe, "tonight I am to meet Professor Schwiebel. He just came to town. Think of it. Carl Humperdinck Schwiebel."
The names in this story are amazing.
They are Dickensian to their level of absurdity.
Yeah, they are amazing.
Murgatroyd, Humperdinck Schwiebel, Hervey Deo.
Yeah.
Is great.
It's great.
Mullet.
Mr. Mullet, yes.
Schwiebel? Said Mina blankly. You don't mean to say you've never heard of Schwiebel?
No!
I'm afraid not. But I've spoken of him score of times. Oh, perhaps you have, she said, yawning. I thought he was a bird. Why, Schwiebel is the biggest birdman in the world, he exclaimed. It will be a big night in ornithology when Schwiebel and Deo shake hands. He must know my work. Of course he must. He can't have missed the Great Auk monograph and the Cuckoo Book. He was so excited he could hardly tie his dinner tie. Schwiebel, he kept repeating, the great Schwiebel. I've wanted to meet him all my life. He comes just at the right time, too, just when my paper on the
Perlura Europea.
He comes just at the right time, too, just when my paper on the Perula Europea, that bullfinch, my dear, is causing talk. Don't forget your galoshes, admonished Mina. Hervey Deo, red, proud and flustered, was introduced half an hour later to that great bohemian savant, Professor Schwiebel, at the University Club. Professor Schwiebel made him a courtly bow. "Charmed, Dr. Deo," he said. "I have heard much about you." Hervey Deo bowed deeply. He was warm and crimson with pleasure.
Damn!
"Oh, really?" he murmured. "Yes," said the distinguished professor. "Who have not heard of Deo, the bee man?"
Whoa!
Deo, a bee man? I? Hervey Deo was stunned. I a bee man? Oh, no. Pardon many times, but you are but too modest, said Professor Schwiebel, wagging his index finger at the stricken Deo. But surely you are the same Deo who makes the sound like the bee.
All those years of research, and now he's just the dumbass that sounds like a bee.
I mean...
It's the best bee, but that's what he's known for now.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing where... It's a trap that I know a lot of artists have worked really hard to get out of. I'm thinking particularly in this moment of like Lady Gaga, right?
Yeah.
Who she is an incredible musician and a powerhouse vocalist, and in order to get a little bit of reputation, she started doing all of the weird like meat suit shit.
Yeah.
And then she became known as that weird lady.
Yeah.
And sort of grew in popularity and people loved her, but had to work really hard to be like, right, okay, yes, that too, but also remember, I'm a musician.
Artist. I like sing. Yes.
Anyway. Hervey Deo stuttered. He would have flung out a denial, but the other scientists had gathered about. Oh, come, Deo, they urged him. There's a good chap. Imitate a bee for the professor. Hervey bit his lips. How is it? Encouraged Professor Schwiebel. Bzzz. No, cried Hervey Deo wildly. Not like that, like this. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. Ah, most droll, said Professor Schwiebel. You have talent. You are a comedian. You should be on stage.
You're a clown.
Hervey Deo could not articulate. Professor Schwiebel addressed him in the tone Harvey knew so well, for he employed it often. It was the tone of tolerance a scientist adopts to a layman. Have you ever taken an interest in birds, Dr. Deo? There are some fine birds a clever fellow like you could learn to imitate. Hervey Deo did not enjoy that dinner. He was up at daybreak, and he attacked his work with a cold and terrible energy. He stuffed a whole family of bobolinks, Dolichonyx Dryziphorus, and dissected snipe, Galinago, by the dozen.
Snipes?
He sat up
Isn't
till
that the thing you used to like? You'd tell people to go snipe hunting, and it wasn't really a thing.
Yeah. He sat up till his eyes ached, writing a masterly treatise on the habits and home life of the adult pelican, Pelicanus. That's a lazy Latin translation.
Yeah. Or a lazy English decision on that part. Yeah.
Lazy Anglification of the Latin.
Yes.
Just drop the U.S. Deo, a bee-man, eh? His lips kept saying. I'll show him who's a bee-man. I'll show him. But he found it impossible to withdraw from social life. The adulation he received as the most perfect imitator of a bee extant had come to be necessary to him. He continued to go out to social functions. He continued to be asked to imitate a bee. He continued to comply. Mina's smile had less and less of an attentive quality in it. She began to find excuses for not going with him. But he insisted that it was her duty. She could not give him adequate reasons for evading it. He was 40 when he went down to New York.
You gotta learn new tricks, buddy. You can't just be
you're a one-trick pony.
Yeah, she's like, I'm done. It's really boring now.
He was 40 when he went down to New York. He's like the band that has one big hit, and they're like, come on, we want to play our new shit. And they're like, no.
No, play Ya Ya Ding Dong.
Play Ya Ya Ding Dong.
I just want to hear Ya Ya Ding Dong.
He was 40 when he went down to New York to attend a dinner, a very special dinner, of the Ornithological Congress of the World, then in session. For months, he worked to prepare a paper that would definitely place him at the head of his science now that Schwiebel was no more. It was on the mental habits of grouse, Tetraonine.
Ooh.
Tetraonine. He rose to read it, but some bibulous lesser birdman in the rear of the hall called out, "Forget the grouse, give us the bee." Others took up the cry, "Forget the grouse, give us the bee."
Forget the grouse, give us the bee.
The whole room took up the cry, "Forget the grouse, give us the bee. Forget the grouse, give us the bee. Yes, yes, the bee, we want the bee. We want the bee. We want the bee." Ornithologists have their light moods.
Scientists can be cool.
Are we calling this cool?
No.
He twisted the tablecloth in a great despair. A furious refusal stuck in his throat. Habit was stronger than he. Bzz, bzz, bzz. They sang, "He's a jolly good fellow, which nobody can deny." A jolly good fellow. It was the last thing in the world Harvey Deo had ever wanted to be. This, then, was his fame. He returned to his home city. His house was silent when he entered it. On his desk was a note. "Dear Hervey, I've taken the children and gone to live with Mother. I love you as much as ever, but I cannot live with a bee. If I should hear you buzz just once more, I should go mad. Don't forget to put your galoshes. Mina."
Oh, shit.
He went out of the house. Deliberately, he did not wear his galoshes. It was a slushy night. At 7, they took him to the hospital with a severe case of influenza. In the morning, a careless nurse left a newspaper where he could reach it. An item struck his eye. "Hervey Deo is dangerously ill in St. Paul's Hospital. He is the man who can imitate a bee." When he read this, Hervey Deo let the paper slip from his fingers and sank back on his pillow. When the doctor came in, he found him lying, staring at the ceiling. A glance told the doctor that Hervey Deo had not long to live. The doctor sought to rouse him from his torpor, to fan the flickering flame of his interest. He turned on his professional bedside smile. "Ah," said the doctor, "thinking about bees, I'll wager." "No," Hervey Deo got out feebly, "not bees." "But surely I'm not mistaken. You are Deo, the famous bee man." Hervey Deo struggled to muster up vitality enough to cry, "I'm a bird man." But he could not. "Come now," said the doctor genially. "Won't you imitate that bee for me?" Hervey Deo tried to glare a negative, but had not the strength. I've heard so much about it, said the doctor, and I've never heard you do it, you know. On a faint ebb of strength, Hervideo managed to say, Really? No, never. Hervideo, with a final effort, gathered together all the little last strength in him. It goes like this. The end.
Fuck. Holy shit. That was kind of sad at the end.
That was a rough one.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about what that was saying. But
yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Like, I'm fully locked in with what the emotional journey of that one was.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure if there was a message so much as it was just a sort of like, sometimes this shit happens.
Or like, yeah, I can't. Sometimes life happens and it like, because he still clearly was very good at birds.
Yeah.
Like he clearly was very successful in that. He just was known for this other thing, and it made him so miserable that it like drove people away from him. But they still wanted to hear the thing because he was so good at it, and he had such bitterness over it.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
I don't know if if the message is one of sort of fame is a fickle mistress, or if it's more a thing of like there's more to people than just what you know them for.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, something. But it is an interesting sort of. It feels like there's a moral in there somewhere.
Yeah.
A beware kind of.
Beware.
I hate it. Yeah, I'm just not entirely sure what it is. Good story, though.
Yeah, really cool. Like, that took some turns. I did not know what that was going to be, but it was literally about a man who intimidated a bee.
Yeah. Thank you, Dickie Connell.
Thanks, Dickie Connell. Junior.
Junior. Thanks, Junior.
Thanks, Junior.
Yeah, that was a fun one. So, hey, listeners, let us know what you thought of that one. Let us know if you have any particular feelings about Mr. Connell. And if you've got the time, I would love it if you, when you message 50/50 Arts Production at gmail.com or Campfire Classics on any of the social media, if you would include in your message this week an audio recording of you imitating something.
An animal of your choosing.
An animal of your choosing, or an inanimate object.
Or a thing of your choosing.
If you've got a really good, like, saw noise or blender or vibrator, like something that buzzes, that's cool too. But yeah, shoot us that message. We'd love to hear from you. And when you do, go ahead and use this week's secret passcode, which is Flying Orgy.
Flying Orgy.
I think that's all I've got. Anything to wrap up from you?
No, I'm good. That was fun.
All right.
I'm happy with that one.
Well, on that note, thank you, listeners, for joining us once again. And until next week, this has been Campfire Classics, where we try to read those books that look really good on your shelf.
That's all I got. I'm just not creative today.
There was so much buzzing.
So much fun.